Dear students, a very warm good morning and welcome to your economics class. Students, in our last class we have discussed the corrective measures to solve the situation of excess demand and deficient demand. So that was the last topic from the chapter. So this means that the topic has brought us to the end of the chapter, determination of income and employment. Well students, we have already done the revision of some very important concepts like the concept of short run, the concept of ex-ante savings and investment, as well as the concept of ex-post savings and investment. Not only that, we have also revisited the concepts of aggregate demand, aggregate supply, consumption function, the derivation of the savings functions from the consumption function, as well as the various marginal propensities and their relationships. For example, the relationship between APC and APS and the relationship between MPC and MPS. So today we shall be doing a revision of the topics excess demand and deficient demand. We shall be revisiting all the important things that are related to these concepts. That is the causes of excess and deficient demand, the consequences of excess and deficient demand, the meaning of both these concepts, and towards the end we shall also revisit the corrective measures, that is the various fiscal policies and the monetary policies. So students, if you all remember what is excess demand, excess demand refers to demand which is excessive, which is more than aggregate supply. It refers to a scenario where aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply. Not only that, demand is considered as excess when it is more than what is required to achieve full employment of the resources, which means that even after utilizing all the resources in the economy, there is still some unfulfilled demand which is there left in the economy. So that very situation is referred to as the situation of excess demand by Keynes. He was a famous macroeconomist. So students, excess demand refers to the situation where demand is more than what is required to achieve full employment of the resources. Full employment meaning all the manpower in the economy are utilized to the optimum level possible. So in case of excess demand, demand is unfulfilled. Some amount of demand is left unfulfilled in the economy such that even after utilizing all the resources, those unfulfilled demand cannot be fulfilled. Okay. On the contrary, deficient demand refers to a situation when demand is less or deficient. It is less than the aggregate supply. It refers to a case where aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply. Not only that, demand is considered as deficient when it is less than what is required to achieve full employment of the resources. When aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply, corresponding to full employment of resources in the economy. So this is what has been said by Keynes. So students, excess demand and deficient demand are two contradictory situations. Excess demand says that demand is more than what is required to achieve full employment of resources, whereas deficient demand says that demand is less than what is required to achieve full employment of resources. In case of excess demand, aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply. In case of deficient demand, aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply. In case of excess demand, there is no excess capacity left in the economy, which means that all the resources are already fully utilized. But in case of deficient demand, since demand is less, the resources are not fully utilized. There is still some amount of resource which is left unutilized in the economy. So, in case of deficient demand, there is always some excess capacity which is left in the economy. So these are the diagrammatic illustrations of both excess demand as well as deficient demand. In case of excess demand, students, the full employment aggregate demand is less than the planned aggregate demand. That means the amount of expenditure that the people in the economy are intending to make is more than what the resources available can produce, such that planned aggregate demand is more than full employment aggregate demand. In case of deficient demand, since demand is deficient, it is less. What is planned by the people in the economy, that means the planned expenditure in the economy is less than the full employment expenditure. So that is why it is deficient. That means the resources are capable of producing much more, but the people in the economy are not planning to spend that much. So this is the difference between deficient demand is the difference between full employment aggregate demand and planned aggregate demand, and excess demand is the difference between planned aggregate demand and full employment aggregate demand. This is a key point which you must remember, that in case of deficient demand, full employment aggregate demand is more than planned aggregate demand. But in case of excess demand, planned aggregate demand is more than full employment aggregate demand. In both the cases, this vertical distance between planned and full employment aggregate demand refers to the amount of excess demand and deficient demand respectively. So in case of excess demand, the difference between planned aggregate demand and full employment aggregate demand gives us the amount of excess demand. But in case of deficient demand, since the full employment aggregate demand is more, the difference between full employment aggregate demand and the planned aggregate demand gives us the amount of deficient demand. So students, these are the main concepts of excess demand and deficient demand. Students, let us now revisit or revise the causes behind the occurrence of excess demand and deficient demand. So students, the first cause behind the occurrence of excess demand is increase in private consumption expenditure. As we all know that the more we consume, the more we spend on various goods and services. So increase in the consumption expenditure leads to an increase in the MPC, and the more we spend, the more will be our demand for goods and services. So as a result, this will lead to a situation of excess demand. On the other hand, students, decrease in private consumption expenditure will lead to a fall in the expenditure that we make. Because sometimes what happens, with a rise in our income, we tend to save a part of it rather than consuming all of it. We tend to save a part of our income. So whenever there is a rise in the MPS, that is the marginal propensity to save, there will be a fall in the MPC. So whenever there is a fall in the MPC or the marginal propensity to consume, this will lead to a situation of deficient demand, because our demand for goods and services will come down. As a result, it will lead to a situation of deficient demand in the economy. The second cause behind excess demand is increase in private investment expenditure. So students, when is there an increase in the private investment expenditure? Whenever the people, the investors, they anticipate a higher return in the future, or whenever there is a fall in the rate of interest, then they have a tendency to invest more in various ventures, right? So whenever the investors, they anticipate that the future expected returns are going to be higher, or whenever they come to know that there is a fall in the market rate of interest, they have an increasing tendency to invest more in various kinds of bonds, in various kinds of ventures. So this increase in the investment expenditure leads to excess demand, because the more we invest, the more we will spend, and the more we spend, the more will be the demand for goods and services. On the other hand, students, decrease in private investment expenditure causes the situation of deficient demand. So when will the investors decrease their investment expenditure? Whenever they will anticipate or whenever they will predict that the future expected returns are going to be less, then they will, instead of investing the money, they will feel that it's better to keep their money as savings in their bank account. So whenever there is a fall in the anticipated expected returns of the future, then, or whenever there is a rise in the rate of interest, that means most of the people, they do what? They take loans from the bank, and by using that money, they invest in various kinds of activities. So when there is a rise in the rate of interest, they will feel reluctant to take a loan, right? So a rise in the rate of interest or a fall in the expected returns will lead to a decrease in the private investment expenditure. And when this happens, this will also lead to a situation of deficient demand. So students, higher future returns and lower rate of interest leads to increase in private investment expenditure, which in turn leads to excess demand. On the other hand, lower future expected returns and higher rate of interest will lead to a situation of decrease in private investment expenditure, which in turn leads to a situation of deficient demand. The third cause behind excess demand is increase in government expenditure. We all know the government makes various commitments to its public, right? So to meet these commitments, to fulfill these various commitments, the government needs to make various kinds of expenditure, or we can say developmental expenditures, construction of roads, construction of bridges, the various poverty eradication schemes, the various employment generation schemes, right? So for all that, the government need to invest money, the government need to spend money, and the more the government will spend, the more will be the demand for goods and services on the part of the government. So this will lead to a situation of excess demand. On the other hand, students, when the government thinks that it should decrease its expenditure, then this will lead to a situation of deficient demand. So increase in government expenditure will lead to excess demand, and decrease in government expenditure will lead to deficient demand. The fourth cause behind the occurrence of excess demand is reduction in taxes. So whenever the proportion of money that we are supposed to pay to the government decreases, this means what? There will be more amount of disposable income in our hands. Disposable income means the money which is left after paying all kinds of taxes. So a reduction in the taxes means an increase in the disposable income. So if we are left with more amount of disposable income, it means that we are now able to purchase more amount of goods and services. So higher disposable income will lead to a higher demand for goods and services, thereby leading to excess demand. On the other hand, students, if there is an increase in the taxes, this means that the people will be left with lesser amount of disposable income. And lesser amount of disposable income means lesser capacity to buy more goods and services. So this will reduce the demand, and which will lead to a situation of deficient demand. The fifth cause of excess demand is fall in imports. So when is there a fall in import? Whenever we feel that the domestic prices are cheaper comparatively to the international or the foreign prices. So when this happens, the people, for example, the people belonging to India, the Indian people will prefer to buy the Indian goods than buying the international goods. So this will lead to a fall in import, and this will generate demand for our goods and services, right? So this will lead to excess demand for our goods and services. On the other hand, students, when is there a rise in import? When the people feel that the international prices are much lesser than the domestic prices, then the people will prefer to buy more of the international goods, more of the imported goods. And when this happens, the demand for our goods and services will fall, and this will lead to a situation of deficient demand. So the fifth important cause behind the occurrence of excess demand is fall in imports, and the fifth important cause behind the occurrence of deficient demand is rise in imports. The last important cause behind the occurrence of excess demand is rise in exports. So these two are the flip sides of the same coin, students. This means what? Whenever there is a fall in the domestic prices, or whenever the domestic prices are cheaper compared to the international prices, the people of other countries as well will prefer to buy Indian products, right? So this will lead to a rise in our exports. It will generate demand for our goods and services, so which will lead to a situation of excess demand. On the contrary, fall in exports. So whenever the people feel that the international prices are way cheaper than the Indian prices, then they will feel that it's better to buy the goods from their own country rather than buying it from India. So when this happens, this will lead to a fall in exports from India, and which in turn will lead to a situation of deficient demand. Students, these two are the flip sides of the same coin. In fact, these two are also the flip sides of the same coin. Rise in imports will automatically lead to a fall in exports, and fall in imports will automatically lead to a rise in exports. So these are the causes behind the situation of excess demand and deficient demand. Let us now analyze the consequences. Consequences of excess demand and deficient demand. That means the after effect of excess demand and deficient demand. So students, as we have already come to know, excess demand causes a situation of inflationary gap in the economy, whereas deficient demand causes a situation of deflationary gap in the economy. So what is inflationary gap? Inflationary gap refers to a situation when there is a rise in the general price level. So why does this happen? This happens because of the fact that there is a rise in the demand, there is some unfulfilled demand left in the economy. So that unfulfilled amount of demand generates pressure on the existing resources to produce more, and this pressure to produce more leads to a rise in the wages. So students, whenever there is a rise in the wages, in order to meet that increasing cost, the producers will have to raise the price level. So this leads to a rise in the general price level. So that situation is known as inflationary gap. So inflationary gap is nothing but the amount of excess demand. It is the difference between the planned aggregate demand and the full employment or the potential aggregate demand. So EF is the amount of excess demand, which is the inflationary gap as well. So it is the situation which is caused by excess demand. On the other hand, students, deficient demand causes a situation of deflationary gap in the economy. It is a situation when what happens, the economic forces creates deflationary pressures. That means decreasing pressure on the existing resources. Since the planned output is less than the potential output, that means it cannot generate sufficient amount of demand in the economy. As a result, what happens, students? Investment comes down. With the coming down of investment, the output which was supposed to be produced, that comes down. With the coming down of the output, the income level also comes down, and with this reduction in the income level, the demand also comes down. So everything in the economy is stuck under a situation of low level equilibrium trap. So that situation is known as deflationary gap. Everything in the economy comes down. So students, this difference between the full employment aggregate demand and the potential or the planned aggregate demand is the amount of deficient demand, which is the same as the deflationary gap. So EF is the deflationary gap as well as the amount of deficient demand. The second consequence or effect of excess demand is static GDP. So static GDP refers to a situation, students, when owing to the full employment of the resources, the output in the economy cannot be increased beyond a certain point. That means this is a fixed amount of output, OM. OM is the static amount of GDP. OM is the static amount of output that can be produced in the economy. It cannot be increased beyond OM. Why? Because the resources are already fully utilized. So even if we shift the aggregate demand curve upwards to this dotted line, we can see that the equilibrium GDP remains uninfluenced or unimpacted. Now students, you must be thinking that there is a rise in the general price level. So because of this rise in the general price level, there has to be a rise in the GDP as well, right? Yes, there is a rise in the GDP, but that is the nominal GDP. That means only the price level of the existing output will rise, the output will not rise, which means that the real GDP will remain constant or static. It is only the nominal GDP which will increase. And when we are saying static GDP, it means we are referring to the real GDP and not the nominal GDP. So this OM is the static amount of GDP which will exist in the economy. The second cause of deficient demand is underemployment equilibrium. So students, this is the point of underemployment equilibrium, this Q, because at this point Q, an intersection has taken place between the aggregate supply curve and the planned aggregate demand curve, which is below the full employment aggregate demand curve. So this is the full employment equilibrium point, point E, where aggregate supply and full employment aggregate demand curves have intersected each other, but Q is the underemployment equilibrium. So students, E is the full employment equilibrium, Q is the underemployment equilibrium, and corresponding to Q, we can see that ON is the underemployment amount of equilibrium GDP. So OM is the underemployment equilibrium GDP, but OM is the amount of full employment equilibrium GDP. So this means that if all the resources in the economy had been fully utilized, then the economy would have been able to achieve OM level of GDP. But since the resources are unutilized to a certain extent, since there is some amount of unutilized resource which is left in the economy could only produce output up to OM. So this much amount of output could not be achieved owing to the situation of deficient demand. So students, this is the situation of underemployment equilibrium. Because of deficient demand, the economy is stuck in a situation of underemployment equilibrium. The third consequence of excess demand is wage price spiral. That means how the increase in wage will lead to an increase in the price level. It is a cycle, or it is a kind of a trap from where it is very difficult to come out. Let me explain you once again. So students, whenever there is a situation of excess demand, this will create additional pressure, or this will generate extra pressure on the existing resources to produce more. And when the resources are under the pressure to produce more, then definitely they will have to be paid higher wages, right? So this pressure to pay higher wages will cause the producers to increase the price level. So there will be a rise in the general price level in the economy, and when there is a rise in the general price level, these will lead to a rise in the overall cost of living. Everything will become costlier, everything will become expensive. So the overall cost of living will increase. So this increase in cost of living will ultimately cause the resources to demand for a rise in wages once again. So higher prices will lead to higher wages in turn will lead to higher prices and vice versa. Okay students? The third consequence of deficient demand is undesired stock. So students, since there is deficient demand in the economy, the producers will not be able to sell off their stock. There will be some amount of stock which will be left with the producers, some amount of excessive stock which the producers want to sell off, but because of the situation of deficient demand, they won't be able to sell the excessive stock. So some amount of undesired stock will be left with the producers. The last important consequence of excess demand is loss of profit. So let me explain you why. As we already know that in case of excess demand, all the resources in the economy are already fully utilized. So this means that even if there is some amount of unfulfilled demand which will be left in the economy, the producers won't be able to raise their supply to meet this unfulfilled demand. So this will incur a loss on the part of the producers, which they otherwise would have been able to turn into profit if there had been some amount of resource which is still left in the economy. But unfortunately, since all the resources are fully utilized, the producers will not be able to meet this unfulfilled demand. So they will have to suffer from a certain amount of loss. The last consequence of deficient demand also is loss of profit. So students, this is quite ironical, right? That both excess demand and deficient demand will cause a loss of profit. So in case of deficient demand, there will be a loss of profit because the producers will be left with some amount of undesired or excessive stock. So what will happen? They won't be able to sell this extra stock. And in order to sell this extra stock, they will have to lower the prices. They will have to reduce the prices. They will have to give some kind of discount or something like that. So this will also lead to a loss of profit on the part of the producers. So students, these are the consequences of excess demand and deficient demand. Excess demand will lead to static GDP. That means the GDP in the economy or the output or the employment in the economy won't be affected. It will lead to a rise in the price level. That means a situation of inflationary gap. It will lead to a loss of profit and it will lead to a situation of wage price spiral. Deficient demand, on the other hand, will lead to a situation of low level equilibrium trap. Everything in the economy will come down. Investment, income, output, employment, everything, price level, everything will come down. So there will be underemployment equilibrium, price level will fall leading to deflationary gap, then there will be excessive stock and which will lead to a loss of profit. So these are the consequences of excess demand and deficient demand. Students, let us now quickly recapitulate the various corrective measures that are taken by the government and the RBI to correct the situation of excess demand and deficient demand. So the various corrective measures are categorized into fiscal policies and monetary policies. Fiscal policies are adopted by the government, whereas the monetary policies are adopted by the RBI. So students, the fiscal policies are also known as budgetary policy and the monetary policies are also known as the various qualitative and the quantitative instruments of credit control. The fiscal policies include government expenditure, taxes, public borrowings and borrowings from the RBI. So the first one is government expenditure. In case of excess demand, the government will lower its expenditure in order to solve the situation of excess demand. On the other hand, the government will increase its expenditure to solve the situation of deficient demand. Taxes. In case of excess demand, the amount of tax, the proportion of tax to be paid will be increased so that people are left with lesser amount of disposable income, which will lead to a reduction in their demand for goods and services, and consequently the situation of excess demand can be brought under control. On the other hand, students, the taxes will be lowered in the situation of deficient demand to increase the flow of money in the economy. The third one is public borrowing. So in case of excess demand, the government will borrow more from the public in the form of selling securities to them, and the government will offer them very attractive rates of interest, so that this will lead to a curb, or this will lead to a fall in their demand for goods and services, because now they will invest a greater part of their money in the securities. On the contrary, in case of deficient demand, the government will reduce its borrowing or selling of securities to the public. The fourth fiscal measure is borrowings from the RBI. So students, in case of excess demand, the government will lower its borrowing from the RBI. In case of deficient demand, it will increase its borrowings from the RBI. Let us now come to the monetary measures. So the bank rate and the repo rate. Bank rate and the repo rate are the rates at which the commercial banks borrow from the RBI. So in case of excess demand, this bank rate and repo rate will be raised so that the lending capacity or the credit creation capacity of the commercial banks can be reduced to help solve the situation of excess demand. On the other hand, this bank rate and repo rate will be lowered to increase the lending capacity of the commercial banks to solve the situation of deficient demand. CRR, as we all know, it is inversely proportional to the lending capacity of the banks. So in case of excess demand, CRR will be increased to lower the lending capacity of the banks, and in case of deficient demand, CRR will be lowered to increase the lending capacity of the bank. Similarly, in case of SLR, in case of excess demand, it will be lowered. In case of excess demand, it will be raised, and in case of deficient demand, it will be lowered. Open market operations is the buying and selling of securities. So students, in case of excess demand, the government will sell more of, or the RBI will sell more of the securities in order to soak or to absorb or to reduce the liquidity from the economy. And when there is deficient demand, the RBI will buy more of the securities in order to release liquidity or money in the economy. Now let us come to the qualitative instruments. Margin requirement. So margin requirement is nothing but the difference between the value of the collateral or the security offered and the amount of loan granted. So students, in case of excess demand, to help tackle this situation, the government will increase the margin requirement so that the people will have a lesser tendency to borrow money from the banks. On the contrary, this margin requirement will be decreased to solve the situation of deficient demand. Credit rationing means fixing of credit quotas. So in case of excess demand, strict credit quotas will be fixed, and in case of deficient demand, if there is any credit quota which is fixed, that will also be withdrawn. The last qualitative measure is moral suasion. It is nothing but advising the commercial banks by the RBI. So in case of excess demand, the RBI will advise the commercial banks to be very strict and selective in their lending process. Whereas in case of deficient demand, the RBI will advise the commercial banks to be liberal in their lending process. So students, these are the various corrective measures with the help of which the government and the RBI try to solve the situation of excess demand and deficient demand. So students, if I ask you what is the present situation that is prevailing in our economy, is it a situation of excess demand or a situation of deficient demand? It is a situation of deficient demand, because now students, there are so much of unfulfilled or unutilized resources which are left in the economy. People are not able to work, they are not able to utilize their efficiency, they are not able to utilize their skills. Most of the people are just sitting at home doing nothing. So this is a situation of deficient demand. There is so much of excess capacity which is left in the economy. So the arrival of this so-called COVID-19 has led to a situation of deficient demand in the economy. Two very important concepts, students, which I would like to brush up. So the first one is full employment equilibrium and underemployment equilibrium. and the second one is voluntary and involuntary unemployment. So full employment equilibrium refers to the attainment of equilibrium where all the resources in the economy are fully utilized. So for example, aggregate demand equals to aggregate supply 100 crore, and suppose the full employment resources in the economy is also equal to 100 crore. So students, this means what? The equilibrium has been achieved and also all the resources are fully utilized. There is 100 crore worth resource which is in the economy and the entire resources are utilized at the point of equilibrium. On the other hand, in case of underemployment equilibrium, equilibrium will take place at a point where the resources are not fully utilized. That means some amount of resources are left in the economy. So as you all can see here, there is resources worth rupees 100 crore, but the equilibrium is achieved at the point of 80 crore. That means 20 crore worth of resources is still unutilized. So students, this is the main concept of full employment equilibrium and underemployment equilibrium. Two very important concepts, voluntary and involuntary unemployment. Voluntary means we are willing to do something, right? So in case of voluntary unemployment, people are unemployed out of their own will. They are not willing to do any kind of work even if a job is offered to them. That means they are not willing to work at the prevailing wage rate. It might be due to the changing skills, it might be due to the fact that they might take some time to adapt to the new technology. So there can be various reasons of voluntary unemployment. In case of involuntary unemployment, people are ready to do a work, they are in fact willing to do a work, but they are not getting the work. So when we refer to unemployment, it means we are talking about involuntary unemployment and not voluntary unemployment. So students, this brings us to the end of the chapter Determination of Income and Employment. In our next class, we shall be starting with the remaining portion of the first chapter, that is National Income and Related Aggregates. So students, if you have any doubts with this chapter, that is Determination of Income and Employment, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you all. So students, on this note, let us end today's class here. Hope to see you all in your next class. Thank you. Take care and stay safe.